Okay, I'm here. Uh, quick one, I hope. I'm going to try to do this real quick. I get asked a lot of times on what's the best first car to give a car guy. You got a kid, uh, you know he's got the bug. He likes to do cars. What's the best car to get for him? And I watch the YouTube and everybody's talking about these best cars to give, you know, I would say on their advice, they're saying like a Toyota because they last forever. A Toyota Camry, you can't beat them. You never have to work on them. Well, what fun is that for a car guy? My opinion on the best car to give a car guy, a kid that wants to learn this stuff, get him a cheap carbureted POS. That is the best one. My first running car was a 1973 Pinto. And it was the oddest looking thing you could ever look at. It had 12-inch wide slot mag, tires on the back, little 13s. I don't know where he got them. They were wide. They were wore out WeatherTech, nasty rubber on them, but they were wide in the back and had little skinny ones in the front, slot mags all the way around. Had a whale tail spoiler bolted to the top. It was a sedan car, not a hatchback. Had a little trunk in it. And I got in it. I got it basically for free. I had to tear down a barn, an old metal-sided pole barn for a guy. He said if you tear that barn down, he wanted to save all the metal. Strip all the metal off of it, stack it up, you can have that car. And I'm a car guy. Always have been. So I did it. Gathered up two of my buddies. We went over there. We spent all day tearing the barn down. And then I hooked onto the wood structure with my dad's 73 Blazer. Gave it about 4 jerks and tore the whole structure down, which is what he wanted, so he could open it up for pasture for his cows. And then he cut up all the old lumber it was a homemade pole barn, not like this, but you kind of get the basic idea, gist of everything. So we did it. We stacked all the metal up for him. He thanked me, wrote the title off, and it's about, I don't know, I'd say maybe 5 miles from my house. Where Dad's at now, that's where I grew up. Threw a battery in it, threw a little gas in it, got it started, smoked like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it billowed smoke, blue-black smoke too. Not the friendly white. It was, oh yeah, she was burning oil. But pulled it out, brakes worked, drove it all the way to the shop, and I knew it was toast. I knew the motor was toast, so I always wanted to blow one up too. So right in front of the shop, there's a stop sign right, little intersection in our little hometown there. I'd sit up there and she did about 3 burnouts. She'd spin those back tires. Even with that totally hurt little 2.3, we called them 2300s back then. She'd rotate them tires, not all the way down the block, but I'd get them to chirp. And then, I think it was my 3rd time doing it, right in front of the driveway, boom! And that was it. Wouldn't turn over no more after that. I mean, it locked up so tight the starter wouldn't even spin it over. So I clutched it, and we pushed it into the driveway, and I pulled the motor out. But that's what got me hooked in cars, and I've been doing it ever since. Was that cheap? I mean, ultra cheap, carbureted, easy to work on Ford Pinto. The worst car you can possibly get for reliability, drivability, all of that. It was a standard. I could drive a standard. I was racing a Mazda rotary powered sand drill before that, up at the sand dunes. But anyway, yeah, got it for nothing. Me and my dad pulled the motor, set it on an engine stand. We took the block in, had it. Well, that one was too far gone. He showed me how, we dropped the pistons out, we dropped the crank out. He showed me how to check the block. Obviously, it was hurt before that, before I ever finished it off. It wasn't rebuildable. It was damn lucky it made it back to the shop. Anyway, he taught me all the ins and outs of how to rebuild. I went to Charlie's Auto Salvage, bought another core block, took it over to the machine shop, had them bore it, everything. Dad taught me everything I know, or he got it started right then and there. And he gave me my first real toolkit when we started working on that. Rebuilt the carburetors. We did everything to that car. That's where it all started. And I was asking him what was his first one. You know what? It was the same thing. The same exact scenario, but with a 53 Buick. Roadmaster of all cars. It was a 4-door, and back then, they weren't worth anything, so Dad did the exact same thing, almost in the same driveway. Blew it up right in front of the house doing burnouts, pulled it in, pulled the motor, he built the head himself, everything with a little Johnny Two-Time toolbox, a handful of tools. That's where my dad's first hook in the automotive world came from. His was with a Buick, big old flathead Buick. It was a 6 car though, it wasn't the 8. That's where he got the bug. Mine was with a Ford Pinto. Exact same thing. And learned it all on the fly. My dad's idea of teaching is he'll tell you the advice. You can do it or you don't. That's up to you. If it blows up, it's on you. He'll tell you how to do it right. But if you don't, you want to go your own way, he'll let you do that. And then you pay for the consequences. But anyway, what's the best car for a car guy? A kid that you definitely know is going to be into cars. A POS. Don't take the dependability, all that stuff, take it completely out of the equation and go looking for the cheapest. It doesn't even have to be the easiest to work on. In fact, the harder the better. And go for it. To kind of help parents on the learning curve on it though, look for a Chevy. They're cheap the parts are cheaper, the aftermarket is easier, one thing fits everything. It'll simplify it for you, and it'll be easier on your pocketbook while you're helping them out. And if you're a Mopar guy, and it's Mopar or no par, you don't care if they scatter this thing. You know, if they just kill another Chevy, they kill another Chevy, you know. If you're a diehard Ford guy, same thing, you know. You don't care so much if they give up on it. Don't go searching for your dream car for them. You know, you want something cheap, dirt cheap. And I say carbureted just to simplify it right off the bat, make it super easy. You get into fuel injection and stuff like that, there's going to be more tools you're going to have to buy. Pretty much anything with a carburetor you can fix with basic hand tools. You don't need too many, you know, special stuff. And the farther back you go, the easier they are to work on with simple tools. I just made the comment the other day while I was stripping that Jeep. On that Jeep, I gotta have a full toolbox to take one part off, because they had different size bolts everywhere on the same part. Small block Chevy, I think it's 4 wrenches, four different sizes, does the whole thing. So, you know, look at it that way. Like I said, if it's not your favorite car, doesn't matter. They're going to blow it up, they're going to hurt it, they're not going to take care of it for their first one. And you kind of want them to have to go through it all anyway. So find something cheap. Don't get caught up on, oh, I want something that's going to last them forever. I only know of 2 guys that still have their very first car. I know guys that went back and bought the same thing, but only 2 guys I know out of all of the car world that I'm involved in that actually still have their first car. Everybody else has either sold it or blew it up, or they converted it into a race car and then it was worth nothing at the end, or, you know, wrecked it and it's gone. So I don't even have my first one. I ended up giving that Pinto away to one of my best friends because he didn't have a car and he wanted something. After I beat the hell out of it, I just gave it to him. And you can do that with a free car. You know, I rebuilt it on the cheap because back then, those 2300s were, I mean, you could send it off to the machine shop, buy all brand new parts for it, and be into it, you know, a couple $100. Look at that when you're looking at all of that stuff. Actually, my very first car, that was my first running and driving car. My very first car was a 61 Volkswagen Bug. The motor was literally in the back seat in pieces, but that one needed a whole lot more work. It looked good on the outside, but once we got it in the shop and got to looking at it, the whole nose was gone on it. So, and it's a Volkswagen Bug, so the floor pan, yeah, didn't exist. It would rotted clear out too. So that one kind of sat in the backyard for a long time, then I ended up selling it later on down the road, but I never drove that car. So that's the other tip. Make sure it's a running driving car. Doesn't matter if it smokes, burns oil. Doesn't matter if it only makes you 10 miles. You want that little bit of a bug, you know, implanted real quick. And if it only goes 4 blocks before, boom, it blows up, so what? You're able to drive it just that little bit to get the excitement. And your kid will want to do it, and you're right there with them. And if they decide not to do it, you're not out a bunch of money, you know. You get it all tore apart in the garage, and your kid says, I'm not mechanically inclined after all, I don't want to do this. You can throw all the pieces and parts back into it. You only gave maybe $1,000 tops. That wouldn't go over $1,000 for the whole thing. A couple of $100. Maybe you trade something, a couple of lawnmowers. I've actually done that for an old car. You know, get them as cheap as you can and put it in your head that it's a throwaway car. If worse comes to worse, you can throw it away. Like an ugly, weird looking, stink bugged 73, 70, I think it was 72 actually. 72, 73. Been so long ago I forgot. Early 70s Ford Pinto with a big whale tail spoiler on top. Ugly damn car. Man, it got a lot of looks. Anyway, keep metal hot. I hope that helps.